And so that's like, I'm just going to take that breadstick and go with it. And I think the Olive Garden breadstick breakout player this year is Justin Fields. I think that's the guy that any breakout article that you read this year is going to have Justin Fields at the QB spot. Jalen Hurts was that guy last year. Trey Lance was also that guy last year, and we won't talk about that one because Jalen Hurts actually figured it out. But Justin Fields is an incredibly exciting player. We don't really need to spend too much time talking about why, but he's an 1,100-yard rusher who just added one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. I think he's going to take a big step forward this year.
Yeah, an 1,100-yard rusher in 15 games.
Yeah.
His last 9 games, he was on pace for over 1,600 yards rushing. They said he's gonna throw more, but could easily lead all quarterbacks in rushing. I know, Heath, he's also on your breakout list. Anything you'd like to add about Justin Fields?
I think he is the free space of a breakout. I don't think Chris said the names, and every time I talk about the Justin Fields breakout, I'm supposed to say what DeAndre Hopkins did for Kyler Murray, what Stephon Diggs did for Josh Allen, what A.J. Brown did for Jalen Hurts. I do believe DJ Moore can do for Justin Fields.
Okay, and Burrow, Fields. Where you at on that? I know he's not going to be a top 3 quarterback. Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Justin Fields. Who's QB4 for you guys?
It's Jackson for me, but I think so. We did a mock draft for the magazine yesterday, and it was weird. 7 quarterbacks went in the first 45 picks, so there was basically no tiers there. It was just like one long tier from like, I think the first one got taken 17th, and the last one was 43rd. Mm-hmm. I think there's a clear top 3 and then a clear next 4, and any of Jackson, Burrow, Herbert, or Fields, I think, are very close to one another, but I do have Jackson at the top of that list. I just think Burrow's upside is probably like 27 points per game. Jackson's, I think, is 30. That's where I come down.
Yeah, I think it really has varied. I currently have Jackson in the rankings, Burrow in the projections. I have taken Fields as the number 4 quarterback. I think he has as much upside as Lamar Jackson. Mm-hmm. But I think our most recent mock, I took Jamar Chase in the first round, and Joe Burrow was there in the 4th, and I liked that. So I just paired up Burrow and Chase and left Fields out. So yeah, I think any of those 3. I don't have Herbert in the same group, and that's maybe not fair to Justin Herbert, but he's the top of the next tier for me.
Of those 4 quarterbacks, this will be the last thing I ask about Fields. Fields, Jackson, Burrow, Herbert. Who has the most downside?
Not taking into account injuries, because obviously Jackson's missed time the last couple of years with that. I would say probably Fields, just because I do think he's clearly the worst passer of the group, and I don't think that was just because of the limited receiving core that he had. I do think just he's not on the same level as the other guys. And so if he's an 800-yard rusher next season, I think there's a path to a pretty disappointing fantasy season.
I think for me, it's Herbert or Burrow, because they don't have the floor provided by the rushing, the 800 yards rushing. Like we saw with Justin Herbert last year, what a bad year looked like for him. And it was 20, right at 20 fantasy points per game. Yeah. I think that's lower than what I think the reasonable floor is for Fields and Jackson. And the reason I would say Herbert over Burrow is because if Herbert, like Mike Williams, Keenan Allen are much more of a concern for me in terms of both production and health than Chase and Higgins. And Chase and Higgins can carry an offense as a number 1 wide receiver. I'm not sure the other 2 can.
Okay. I always reference ADP and consensus rankings and all that. What do you think about? I think I'm going to reference our listener-only mock draft from May and see where these guys went. How do you feel about that?
Today, it's fine. Don't ever do it again.
Whoa, come on.
No.
All right, fine.
No, I mean, if you want to do another listener-only mock in like late June and reference that, yes. But I think a listener-only mock from a month ago is fine today.
It was 2 weeks ago.
Oh, yeah, it was May 25th.
Yeah, it was published on May 29th.
Today it's fine. Don't ever do it again.
Okay, fine. I just changing up a little bit. But anyway, Justin Fields went a round and a half after Burrow. He went 2 picks after Herbert in this draft. And let me see where Lamar Jackson went in this draft. Lamar Jackson went. Oh, sorry. It was round. The end of round 3 was Burrow. Then round 5 was Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Terry McLaurin, Justin Fields. So They all went, Jackson, Herbert, and Fields went within 4 picks. And then I think a bad pick, personally, Anthony Richardson went 5 picks later. So
that's the way it's going to work. It's going to be those 7, and then Richardson's probably going to be like the bridge between those 4 and the next tier.
The only reason I can't get there yet is because I do think that Richardson's passing statistics were bad enough in college that the window is open, that they see him in training camp. Like, there is a certain level of play that you can live with as a rookie, and he's going to get better by playing. And there's a certain level historically that coaches have thought, okay, he needs to sit. And I think there's a chance that they see Richardson throw the ball in live action and read the defense in live action and say, no, we need to wait. If you told me guaranteed Anthony Richardson starting week 1, he should be right there. I would definitely take him before Trevor Lawrence.
For the record, I'm not saying what I would do. I mean, if you want me to, I would take Lawrence ahead of him, but I understand why you would say that. But what I see is that Anthony Richardson on Fantasy Pros, both average draft position and consensus rankings, Richardson's is QB 18. So
that's not accurate at all. That's not happening. I don't know where those numbers are coming from, but it's not. Well, I mean, it might be if those are only coming from best ball leagues where there's no waiver ads, there's no roster moves. People are afraid to draft him as the number 1 quarterback because they don't know if he's starting and they can't just drop him. Like, maybe, but that doesn't, I don't believe it.
Okay. I think that Trevor Lawrence in a 6-point per passing touchdown league will have a higher ADP than Anthony Richardson.
I agree.
He currently has a higher ADP than Justin Fields in NFC drafts since the start of May, which that's a mistake. I think that's an obvious mistake. But I'm just going to be down on the Jaguars offense relative to everyone else, I think, this year. I'm just not quite as convinced that they're going to be an elite offense as everyone.
This is always, and I like this, so we can talk about Jacksonville now in a positive light, and I can be the positive guy because, Chris, when it comes to Adam and Jamie and Dave, I'm usually the guy on the Jacksonville offense that's saying, well, wait, we don't know for sure that Trevor Lawrence is going to make that leap.
He had a really, really good 5-game stretch.
It's a great month.
Where we were just like, okay, this is it. Just Trevor Lawrence has arrived. And if that had been the last 5 games he played, I feel like I'd be a lot more confident. But he took I think he still played like 5 more games and really wasn't very good.
He was like 80% of Tua in those 5 games. It was fantastic.
I will be the pro Trevor Lawrence guy on this show. I think Dave and Jamie would be more on my side than on your side.
For sure.
But yeah, that's not the topic of, although I do think Trevor Lawrence would fit a breakout. In fact, 100% he would fit the breakout show.
If Dave or Jamie was on this show, he would be on the breakout list. So you should probably just talk about him as a breakout.
Well, fine. I mean, I think they probably like Calvin Ridley more than you do right now, because I know you want to see a little bit out of him. Look, I believe in Trevor Lawrence as a player. He did have a good year. It was not a great year last year, but I think this is the year that he puts it all together. And I think Ridley will absolutely help. I think they've got a lot of really good weapons offensively, and do think he has the potential to be the next great quarterback in the NFL. So I'm not really going to give you a whole bunch of statistics. It's really just a pedigree.
Right. It's a vibes case.
Right.
It's a what?
It's a vibes case. It's Trevor Lawrence hasn't been a great fantasy quarterback, but sure feels like he could be.
Yeah.
And I get it. I think it's fine. I just I'm not so sure he's better than Geno Smith. And Geno Smith has pretty fantastic weapons. I think they're better than Trevor Lawrence is. So I get the Trevor Lawrence hype, but we've seen Geno Smith play at that level as a passer already. And I'm not sure that the gap in ADP certainly makes much sense.
Heath, you want to give a favorite breakout, or should we just keep going?
I mean, it's Garrett Wilson.
That's the other breadstick.
Yeah. They gave us like 3 extra breadsticks. I think there might be one more. But yes, I just think, and I've been writing a piece about the rise of the receiver for the magazine. And just like we talk about all these numbers that rookie wide receivers can put up, the idea of earning 147 targets in your rookie year, the idea of producing an 1,100-yard season with that absolute, I'm trying to think of a word that would not be disrespectful to those guys as humans, but just quarterbacks. But the quarterbacks that he played with last year, it's stunning. And now he's playing with Aaron Rodgers. And we've seen Rodgers, when he has one wide receiver who's obviously better than everyone else, just throws it to them constantly. And all the guys who have played with Davante Adams and are now seeing Garrett Wilson can say is how much he reminds them. Now, part of it's because he wears 17, but we'll take that psychological advantage. That's a fantastic thing. It's working in our favor as well. I love it at camp and stuff when I hear players talking about guys who have not necessarily performed yet to the level they are saying they are. I remember it happened with Michael Thomas. DeAndre Hopkins was talking about Michael Thomas, saying, like, I see me when I watch him, and they had a joint practice. I have really enjoyed the last couple of weeks of Rodgers and everybody else talking about the star turn that Wilson's about to make.
The one thing I would say is just, I don't know if the Aaron Rodgers peppering Davante Adams with targets thing is an Aaron Rodgers thing, because Davante Adams just did that with Derek Carr and Trevor Siemian. Like, Davante Adams that dude just gets open and demands 30% of your targets. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is. But I agree with everything else. Garrett Wilson, my only thing is Aaron Rodgers, not telling any tales out of school. Aaron Rodgers is kind of a weird dude. And he's got some idiosyncrasies about him. And he's the kind of guy where I feel like he really, more than most quarterbacks, he really needs to trust the players that he's playing with. When he trusts the players that he's playing with, he plays fluid. He plays inside the offense. He makes quick decisions. Last year, it didn't seem like he was that guy. And I don't know how much of that was he didn't trust the players he was playing with. I don't know how much of that was the thumb injury. I don't know how much of it was just, I don't want to be here anymore. But that trust level, he's got to just establish that very, very quickly, I think. And hopefully that's what we're seeing with Garrett Wilson.